And it is time once again for another AEW Dynamite review here on the MrWarrenHayes Show. Hello, I am Warren and I'm wearing white pants and there's nothing you can do to stop me. We are going to be talking about the April 23 edition, 2025, of course, of AEW Dynamite, which occurred at the Lakefront Arena in New Orleans, Louisiana. Look, another really good Dynamite. Did it hit the absolute highs of last week's show? No, but I think it's safe to say that last week's show is, one in a million. It's kind of like one of these. It's one of the great all-time Dynamites. One of the all-time great television wrestling shows. I think that's. It's not necessarily a brave thing to say. I think that's what the consensus pretty much is. But this was nonetheless a great episode of Dynamite in its own way. We're going to talk about it, of course. That's why you're here. And before we do, we should mention that 2,106 tickets were distributed, according to WrestleTix, of course, for the show last night. This, of course, is not the final tally. This is an update that WrestleTix put out yesterday. I rarely get the final tallies since I record this the next day on the Thursday. One of the smaller attendance numbers that they've posted over the past couple of weeks. I think it was a smaller venue overall, regardless. The last time Dynamite was here was on January 1st, 2024. They did 2,236 people in attendance. So we're in the same vicinity. But regardless of the size of the audience, that was a super hot crowd. Once again, we cannot push this forward more. That the shrinking of the venues has been a boon to the live crowds and how they come across on television. And I've chatted with people that were there on location, and they thought the vibe was great, and they had it was a lot of fun in the building, and people had a really good time. And that shit matters. And, look, we're not posting, like I said, tremendous attendance numbers. We're definitely not where we once were for the weekly tapings. But, you still see how everything is going. The announcements that AEW makes, the buzz, the good vibes that come out of these shows after the live crowd. There is you can feel that the arrow is indeed, as a lot of people like to put it, that the arrow is indeed pointing upward. I'm not saying that suddenly, we're back, baby. That's absolutely not what I'm saying. But we're definitely not down in the darkest depths that we were last year or even the year before. With all of the backstage stuff happening, and you couldn't spend a few hours without there being some kind of bad news regarding AEW. No, everything seems to be coming together quite nicely. I feel like everything's just coming together quite nicely with some really fun shows. It's not perfect by any means by any stretch. It's not perfect. And, we still have a ways to go to reach back, original levels that we had as far as attendance and so on and so forth. But there's a good vibe. There's a good vibe around AEW these days. And I feel that I don't know if they've completely changed their PR strategy, if they're doing things differently, if they're, entertaining new ideas, new contacts, new people in charge. I don't know. I'm not aware, but you can tell that AEW is focusing on itself. It's making sure that the announcements that they make are interesting and positive. We had a slew of good announcements last week, and there's one thing I'd like to touch on very lightly, but I do want to touch on it nonetheless because I think it's relevant. as far as announcements go, it was revealed this week that AEW was going to collaborate in putting on 2 more Dean shows. The original Dean show happened last year, which was an event that was put together in tribute of DVDVR member Dean Rasmussen, who had passed away in May 2023. They decided to put on basically a memorial show for him, and that show, which took place on WrestleMania weekend last year, was very highly regarded, and it was a terrific pro wrestling show. Very, very well regarded. Lots of great matches on it, and it would appear as though AEW is going to collaborate on 2 more Dean shows. They're going to do one show at Double or Nothing weekend. I think it's on the 24th, and it's going to be a free show on top of that. And it is said that the show is going to be a melting pot of Dean alumni, so people who were on the show last year, and AEW talent on top of that. And I think that's pretty rad. And there's going to be a third one. And I believe they said, if my memory serves me right, I believe they said, I could just also pull up the note here. Yeah, there you go. They announced that the third Dean show is going to be at the ECW arena in September. And I thought these were very, very interesting announcements, coming off of a good week of announcements last week, with the Arena Mexico show, with the announcement of the venue for Forbidden Door. It was a good week with a lot of positive vibes, and I feel it's continuing on that front as well. But more importantly, I think that it's the announcement of these shows will generate goodwill amongst the hardcore wrestling fans. People who get excited about these types of events and these types of shows being put together off of the backs of an already great show. And I don't think there's a mistake in this. Look, I understand that Tony Khan has a connection to the DVDVR boards. And I even think he said he knew Dean Rasmussen, or, they had been in contact or whatever. So, I can understand that he has probably a personal connection to that. And that's really rad. But the idea that he's doing this, I believe, also connects to something very important, and that is AEW's connection to the hardcore wrestling fan, which it had been able to establish all the way back in 2018, 2019, and the build towards AEW. It was a very grassroots movement that catered straight out to wrestling fans who were fed up of WWE and wanted something else, and dare I say, more hardcore audience. And I sincerely believe that AEW lost a lot of that audience over the past couple of years, lost a lot of that goodwill for multiple reasons. And I see this as a way for the company to try and regain some of that connection that it had once lost with a very passionate base that was ready to buy into AEW, that was excited for it, and maybe they lost along the way. Maybe this is a way for AEW to rekindle some of that, to make up for some of the poor decisions that led to these fans leaving, by it, putting on a show for a gentleman who was once a very well-regarded member of the internet wrestling community, when there actually was an internet wrestling community, not whatever it is today, and in a context that will appeal to pro wrestling fans, to hardcore pro wrestling fans. I don't know what Tony's personal motivations are in here. I couldn't tell you, but is it really he wants to put on a show because he wants to pay tribute? He wants to continue paying tribute to this guy, to Dean. Sure. Does he want to do it because he sees an opportunity to, does he see a good a good PR opportunity here to reach back out to the community and show, look, I'm still one with you guys. I'm still, I'm still a part of this group. Maybe I'd say it's a nice little mixture of the both, if you ask me. But this was a very positive announcement. If it's not as it's not an announcement that has a grander scale or as grand a scale, I should say, as, announcing that Forbidden Door is going to be at the O2 in London, which is a whole other type of announcement. But it's still something that carries some weight among certain circles. And if AEW if their vision right now is to return to, if their vision is to return to something closer to what the original vision was, I'm all for it. Recently in a chat, I think it was our pal Zach McGibbon, friend of the show, who was in the chat when we were talking about AEW, said, never mind, I'm paraphrasing here, but never mind restoring the feeling. Why don't you create the feeling? I think AEW, the idea that AEW is letting go of what it used to be and moving on to something else is a good idea. Because whatever it used to be in the past is in the past. But it could still be something close to that. It could be still something that aligns with their, corporate strategies, I guess, but can also connect with, can also create a feeling that connects with their audience, that makes AEW continue to feel different. And I think that by going back to the base, addressing the base, giving stuff that the base that supported you once, is excited about, wants to see, comes a little out of left field, not gonna lie. I don't think anyone was expecting AEW to support a Dean show, anything on the indies. I don't think anyone was really expecting Dean shows to return either. So it's all like really fun news. It's good news. I think there's a lot of positive in that, and I think it's continuing this good public perception ride that AEW is on right now. God knows they've been needing some wins. They could only go so far before either everything implodes or everyone hates them. I really don't think that AEW has been on this good of a run, perception wise, right? Since CM Punk joined. I think that was their last really big, great run. And, it's been, 2 years, I guess, of, 18 months, 2 years of just really, really strained relations with media, with fans. It hasn't been great. They've been on a roll. So the Dean shows, all in all, if we're going to wrap this little part on and get to the review, I think it's a tremendous move. I'm excited to see. I think they've already announced that Mad Dog Connolly was going to be on it. I'm like, let's put Mad Dog Connolly in. Let's put Mad Dog Connolly. I'll pronounce his name right to begin with. Let's put him and Moxley at the end of a dog collar match, and that would be tremendous. Can we get Daniel Maccabee to come out of retirement and maybe finally wrestle Bryan Danielson, which would also be tremendous. This is all wishful thinking, but nonetheless, this is what's fun, right? You kind of see the match possibilities and you get excited. That's how you should feel as a pro wrestler, really. That's how you, pro wrestling fan, and a pro wrestler too. But as a pro wrestling fan, that's how you should feel. Anyway, I felt good watching this show last night. God damn that first hour. Am I right? What a great first hour. Not that the second hour was bad or anything, au contraire, but that first hour of Dynamite last night was just full of stuff happening, full of really good matches, punchy matches. I would even go as far as to say there was a great match in that first hour last night that we're going to get to. But let's look. Let's stop beating around the bush. Let's get to this really high energy, ecstatic, well put together, strong edition of Dynamite. Opened up with Master P being introduced to the ring by Tony Schiavone. The connection there is not lost on anyone, I don't think. And Master P basically was there to introduce the AEW World Trios champions, the brand new guys, the Ops, which were, of course, Samoa Joe, Katsuyori Shibata, and newest Ops member, Powerhouse Hobbs, which really does fit into the vibe of the group. I think it's a smart pairing, if you ask me. It's a good idea to do that. They wanted to get the Ops over and want to make sure that they get, a big reaction, because clearly they're going to be involved very shortly in a very big angle on the show. So you have, Louisiana's favorite, New Orleans favorite, I guess, Master P, come out and introduce them and get excited and get the crowd hype, doing all his catchphrases, with Samoa Joe also getting people to go say, and, getting body and Roddy. I haven't heard that in years. I'm sorry to say, I never really kept up with the career of Master P once he and the No Limit Soldiers were no longer a part of WCW in any way, shape, or form. Sorry to say he fell off the map for me, but Joe gets on the mic and puts over Master P's work with student athletes. He's got apparently a program set up, which is rad as hell. Let's be real here. So Joe declares that New Orleans is the best city in the world to celebrate their brand new championships. However, the Death Riders, of course, come in to try and interrupt that. The Ops sort of get the upper hand here, and in fact, Jon Moxley gets caught in a chokehold, in a coquina clutch by Samoa Joe, and it's really funny because I thought this was really funny because there's also all these guys are moving around, they're all doing stuff outside of the ring, and Joe and Mox are in the ring and they're doing shit, and then you have Master P who's standing in the ring, right, and he's just looking around, and then all of a sudden he comes in and he goes for a jab right in the rib cage. I mean, it was a working punch. The guy's a worker. He's done this before, but nonetheless, he's trying to get a couple of shots in, and you can see Joe then is like, he was facing the hard cam, but then he sees what's going on. Consummate professional Samoa Joe turns his back to Master P just to make sure that this guy doesn't start shooting on him, that he doesn't go all Travis Scott on Mox, which probably would not have been a good idea. But nonetheless, you still have Master P trying to sneak in there, going in with for some hooks, trying to go for Mox in the stomach. And so he's choking Mox out, and Master P's on the microphone, and he just tells him, put him to sleep. The crowd erupts, and it's. I thought it was all really funny. I thought it was all really, really funny. And well done for what it was. You never know you never know when you give performers who are outside of the business a live mic. You never know exactly what's going to happen. It really did have the potential to go off the rails a lot more than it did. I don't have a problem with that. I thought it was really funny. So surprise, surprise, the Elite run in and save Jon Moxley from the choke, from actually passing out. And then Swerve Strickland arrives on top of that as Marina Shafir gets Mox the hell out of Dodge. And we've got ourselves... and so does Kenny Omega, right? Kenny Omega come in, and it comes in as well. And so we have a full collection of baby faces in the ring. We've got 5 baby faces in the ring. We've got 5 of them on the outside. Oh, gee willikers. Well, we had 6 of them actually, because we have I wonder where we're going with this. I wonder where we're going with this. We've got 2 teams of wrestlers coming together to fight off the Death Riders. I wonder what bookings plan might be happening here. We kind of talked about it a little bit on stream, and I kind of felt that there was something that was going to come up with, that there was something that was going to come together for Double or Nothing, because it's Anarchy in the Arena that happens at Double or Nothing, right? So, I know a lot of people were saying, oh, it's going to be Mox and Joe for the title. I'm like, I don't know, man. I don't know. We kind of feel like there's a real deal faction war going on, that finally the babyface locker room is standing up to the Death Riders. And then over the past couple of weeks, you had the Young Bucks trying to align themselves with the Death Riders. And I'm scratching my chin. I'm going, no, this is very suspicious. I don't think we're... clearly, this is where we're going, right? And it was absolutely confirmed in my mind that we are going to Anarchy in the Arena with the 5 baby faces that were in the ring. So the Ops, Kenny Omega, and Swerve Strickland, versus whatever combination of 5 they want to do between the Death Riders and the Elite, which is actually 6 people. Whatever combination of those guys, or maybe we do 6-on-6 and we add an extra guy to the baby faces. Who knows? But this is where we're going. We're finally going to get Team AEW versus the Elite and the Death Riders, and it's we're getting that at Anarchy in the Arena. And it was confirmed, like I was saying, it was confirmed, at least in my mind, because Samoa Joe, after failing to choke out Jon Moxley, after the whole segment went by and all the baby faces ran in and whatnot, he grabbed the microphone and challenged Jon Moxley for the World Championship. And then later on in the show, it was announced that the match was going to happen, but on the May 14 edition of Dynamite, right? Was it May 14? Anyway, it's going to be on a Dynamite. So I just went, oh, there you go. There you go. You don't need any more confirmation than that. You don't need any more... to me, it's sealed, it's signed. We're getting the Death Rider. We're getting an Anarchy in the Arena, and the Death Riders are going to be involved. The Ops are going to be involved. Swerve is going to be involved. Kenny's going to be involved. A lot of people. It's going to be like a star-studded affair. I just hope that this year's Anarchy in the Arena is better than last year's. I think it's diminishing returns. I talked about it last year, but I think it's diminishing returns if they do it every year on the same date. It's kind of like doing Hell in a Cell every year, having a Hell in a Cell pay-per-view. The diminishing returns on Hell in a Cell then become palpable. It's the same thing here. I feel like Anarchy in the Arena should be able to pull it out for any pay-per-view, for any feud, but it's a Double or Nothing thing now. I enjoyed this segment. I enjoy that we're getting Moxley versus Samoa Joe on TV and not really headlining a pay-per-view. No disrespect, I think Samoa Joe's terrific, right? I think Samoa Joe is absolutely terrific. I think seeing Samoa Joe in AEW should make everyone mad at how wasted he was for 10 years in WWE? How long was he in WWE? It's less than 10 years. But all that time that he spent there with them doing nothing with him is a disgrace. And you can see, he's one of the best promo guys they got. He's a guy who's convincing, who you believe is a killer, is a tough guy. You don't want him coming after you. You know, it's like Samoa Joe has this thing that all the kids like to call aura. He absolutely has it. And to think that now, you know, he's older, not as mobile as he once was, to think that he was completely wasted during his physical peak is preposterous to me. Like absolutely ridiculous for whatever reasons. Ask Vince McMahon at this point. I like the bit when Joe talked about coming back, you know, challenging Mox for my AEW World Championship, and he sort of, when he said he glanced over at Swerve, right? Because Swerve won his first title off of Joe, his first World Championship off of Joe, so they have the history there. And I like he gave him a little glance. He's like, I know you're here, pal, but nothing to say, oh, will they be able to coexist, or we're not doing anything that blatantly obvious, but there's still a little issue there. And I like that, left it as it was. Very good opening segment. I have no complaints. That was a very good opening segment. Nice and chaotic on top. I like the chaos. And the way that they do these chaotic segments where everything seems to fall into place and make sense, I think is good. Kenny does a lot of sauntering. Is Kenny okay? I'm just asking this. Kenny Omega, is he okay? He seems to be doing a lot of sauntering. Where's the fire? Like, I feel he had legitimate fire when he was doing the Ospreay stuff. Kind of felt good, and he was perked up, and it's like, perked, P-E-R-K-A-D, not Percocets. I'm not trying to be cute here. I'm not trying to wordplay anything. No, but I feel like Kenny for the past couple of weeks has been low energy. Like last week, his promo was it last week? The promo he cut, or was it, no, 2 weeks ago, the promo he cut on the Bucks, right? Wasn't exactly his finest hour, We talked about it here, awkward energy and so on and so forth, but that one really didn't work all that great. I know he's a different type of cat, but, where's the verve? Like, I feel like we're missing out on a little verve here. We're missing out on some verve. We're lacking verve. We could get a little verve from Kenny Verve Mega. That's not his name, but I'd like to refer to him as Kenny Verve Mega moving forward. And when I say I'd like to, I don't really care. I'll forget about this bit. I'll never use that again. We'll never talk about Kenny Verve Mega ever again until we do. All right, let's move on. Renee Paquette is backstage with the Patriarchy. Nick Wayne is there holding his Ring of Honor World Television Championship. She congratulates him on doing that. Christian Cage interrupts, takes credit for the win, takes the title away from Nick, saying that we're all very proud of you and that he and his mother celebrated extensively his win. And there's a little back and forth again between Cage and Wayne. And Wayne sort of fights for his title back and takes it back away from Christian Cage and puts it on his shoulder. And there you go. Christian says he loves his family, and there's still some tension there. So that's where we're at for now. But, if you've been wondering if there's a Nick Wayne push in the books, yes, there is. I think it's pretty obvious. And I think Tony wants to, I think this is the year he wants to pull some triggers on him. Look, he's sending him over for Best of Super Juniors for a couple of weeks in New Japan. That's going to be terrific. It's all going to be good stuff, especially going there with the title. Like it all makes sense. There's going to be stuff happening with Nick Wayne this year. Mark Briscoe defeated Ricochet in the first full-on match of the evening. I thought this was very good. I thought this was a very good TV match. Briscoe's in control early, working over Ricochet on the floor. He does the Cactus Jack elbow spot, and the crowd is super into it. But then again, the crowd, I think, was into everything. It was a really, really great crowd. And they were really, really into this match. Ricochet avoids the froggy bow, does the springboard 450, which is always impressive. But the crowd was giving him a really hard time throughout the entire match, with the "you're still bald" chants and whatnot. And even after doing the springboard 450, which is a legitimately impressive move, the audience, despite the audience started chanting "you still suck," conceding. That was cool, but you still suck, which is tremendous. Diving cannonball by Mark Briscoe and a lariat, but Ricochet kicks out. And then Ricochet tries to win by using his feet. Did I just say his feet? What the hell is wrong with me? He tried to win by putting his feet on the ropes, but Briscoe, before the referee could see it, Briscoe rolls through and gets a surprise cradle win on that one, which was tremendous because Mark Briscoe should be winning more matches. Mark Briscoe should be getting a push. As you know, this is your home for the Mark Briscoe must get a push brigade. This is the one thing that I will not let go of, I believe, this year. Everyone loves Mark Briscoe. He works so fucking hard every week. And again, the audience was really into him. I'm not saying world championship. That's not necessarily what you have to do. But there's two guys in this company that the audience are systematically enamored with, that love, that want to see good things out of. You can tell it's Mark Briscoe and Brody King. And we saw both of these guys tonight on that show, last night, whatever. And the reactions that they get are proof positive once again of that. But back to Briscoe, I'm glad that he won because he should be winning more matches. He cannot just be relegated to the jobber to the stars spot on the roster. I think he's too good. I think he has too much of a crowd connection. I went into this match thinking, oh shit, here we go. Briscoe's losing again. But I was shocked when the opposite happened and Ricochet ended up taking the L here. But Ricochet would get his heat back after the match. He attacks Briscoe with a steel chair and gets his golden scissors. So that gimmick's not done, which I think is good. We hadn't seen them in a while. We hadn't seen them really since the Swerve feud, and I think it's a good idea that they're you reintroduce them once in a while. But it's Kevin Knight who runs in to save Mark Briscoe, stomping on the scissors as Ricochet drops them on the floor, and Ricochet takes a powder, hits the bricks, whatever you want to say, and yeah, so the baby faces then stand tall at the end. But Ricochet did get some of his heat back. I think it's good. And you know what? If you want to have a Kevin Knight Ricochet little TV program, I'm not saying it necessarily has to be a pay-per-view thing. But you want to make a little TV program out of that? I wouldn't object to that. That'd be great. You could do a lot worse than pushing Kevin Knight and giving him some shine. Clearly, Tony really, really loves him. He's bucking his usual booking trend of, having a new guy come on TV and losing until it's time for him to push, to get pushed. Like he did with Konosuke Takeshita, like he's going to do with Nick Wayne. Yeah, we're just jumping straight in with Kevin Knight, and I don't hate it. I like it. I like Kevin Knight. I think he's got a lot of upside. And there's stuff that he still hasn't even done in AEW yet that I've seen him do in New Japan that he still hasn't done. Like, he isn't doing like these insane dives where he gets like 18 feet of air, right? He hasn't done any of those yet, which, I wonder why. Maybe he's saving it for a big spot, but that's the kind of thing that will drive the AEW fans crazy the first time they see that. So that's good. We show the Rock and Roll Express in the crowd, and I'm like, uh-oh, these guys are in trouble because FTR is supposed to come out, and FTR do come out after that match. They come to the ring. accompanied by Stokely Hathaway. And Stoke basically announces that he's FTR's agent, and he would get there, and basically says, look, these guys have been treated unfairly, very, very unfairly. They just do this one thing. Meanwhile, there's people burning down houses. There's attempted murder. There's all sorts of crimes happening, and we just brush by these without any consideration. But apparently, but FTR have been treated unjustly. So he says he's going to get the suspension expunged and get their fine refunded. So Stoke, in a tracksuit, which was a little weird. I thought it was a little off-putting, but nonetheless, Stokely Hathaway in a tracksuit is going to be added to the FTR scheme for a while. And I don't hate the pairing. I don't hate it. It's something new. Let's give it a try. Give something to do for Stoke. Like right now, FTR was in dire need of a refresh. And we're going all in on this refresh, as you can tell. Then they being FTR, they talk a little bit. They talk about their actions against Daniel Garcia in 2.0. They remind us that they're putting FTR first. They're tired of putting other people's interests before their own, so they're doing FTR first. And then Dax calls in the Rock and Roll Express to join them in the ring. So Morton and Gibson get there, praises them as legends, and then tries to ask them some questions like, what is your favorite tag team match that you've ever been in? And he passes the microphone. I'm not going to do it actually with this microphone, but passes the microphone to Ricky Morton so he can answer. But just as Ricky starts to answer, Dax moves the mic away and answers for him. He does this a couple of times. And on the third occasion, Morton grabs his hand and is like, you're not going to do this again. You're not going to humiliate me in front of all these wrestling fans or whatever, the wrestling business. I said wrestling. I love Ricky Morton. The obvious is going to happen, but before they do, Stokely reveals FTR's new t-shirt, which says FTR Legend Killers, and then they attack the Rock and Roll Express again. The Rock and Roll Express are on the bum end of all these people beating them up in AEW. The Rock and Roll Express cannot go to an AEW event and be safe. They're gonna have to bring some boys, some security or whatever. They're gonna have to bring a crew at the very least to make sure that they don't get too fucked up. But FTR attacks Rock and Roll Express. Dax pile driving Ricky Morton. Of course, Robert Gibson, he can't bump anymore. So, he takes a punch and, he tumbles. But Ricky Morton still does. And this brings out the former Undisputed Era known as, not Undisputed Era, Undisputed Kingdom. Well, the word for, I'm not entirely wrong. It is the former Undisputed Era. But that's been a while now. And it's not the Undisputed Kingdom anymore. It's the Paragon, which is still not a good name. But it brings out all three of the guys, Adam Cole, Kyle O'Reilly, and Roderick Strong. And they save the day for the Rock and Roll Express. And that's our segment. The Young Bucks defeated Kevin Knight and Speedball Mike Bailey in a team that a lot of people are calling Jet Speed, which I can get behind, in an absolutely bonkers match, terrific match, that I absolutely adored. A great television match right before your eyes, courtesy of these four guys, that basically showed to, was there to show that the Young Bucks still have it, and they're still really good and creative and dynamic, and you should never doubt the Jacksons. Just never, you just can't doubt the Jacksons. You really can't. And Speedball and Kevin Knight were really terrific in this match too. Fast-paced, many exchanges. They do stereo dives Kevin Knight and Speedball to the floor. Both guys jumping on their side of the ring. The Young Bucks do a TK driver off of the rail on the floor, and they also do a Doomsday device on top of that. Lots of near falls, lots of really creative offense from the Bucks as usual, and everyone did great here. Look, Kevin Knight's been in a tag team for most of his pro career, so he was clearly very comfortable here as well in that role, I should say. Speedball was terrific as well. Like, everyone looked good here. Everyone made the most of their spot. It was an electric match. Kevin Knight's going for a springboard attempt, and Ricochet's right there sort of to do it for a little payback. He keeps him from hitting the springboard attempt, and the Young Bucks, that allows the Young Bucks to win with the BTE trigger and get the fall on Kevin Knight. But, like, I thought a couple of times in this match that that we were wrapping up. You know, sometimes you get that beat where it's like, well, you know, the baby faces had a great sequence of offense, but now the heels are suddenly back in control, and there's a bit of a feeling of emergency for them to get some moves off, and you feel, this is leading towards the finish, but it wasn't leading towards the finish, and not in a way where they missed their peak. You know, it's not not even on that front. It was really good. Like, the entire match, the structure, the vibe to it was all great. I gave this match 4.25 stars. I thought it was terrific. You know, the triangle moonsault by Mike Bailey that the Bucks caught. That's where they did the TK driver, right, on the floor, which was fantastic. It was tremendous. It was a great TV match. 4.25 stars for me. I thought it was terrific. And, you know, you just cannot doubt the Young Bucks. You just can't doubt them. Renee Paquette is chatting with Toni Storm backstage. Apparently she's going to be at the TCM Film Festival, or she was at the TCM Film Festival. I think she's going to be at the TCM Film Festival. But this all led to Toni Storm announcing that she was going to hold an eliminator match. To all of you slop tarts backstage, that was surprising. So basically, you know, she opened the challenge up, and it's Queen Aminata who decided to step up, and I think that should be a fun match for Collision this week. The Hurt Syndicate come out and start cutting a promo, which leads us to MJF coming out. And he says he wants to do the thumbs up one more time. Just three thumbs up. Let's go. And he actually gets 2 thumbs up on this one here, where MVP and Shelton both give him the thumbs up. Shelton made sure that MJF understood that he's not giving him a thumbs up because of some evening he had with a few broads, but that he trusts MVP. And Lashley's about to vote, and Max, being insecure about his response, apologizes. You know, does the gimmick where he's never used to saying I'm sorry, so he stutters his words or whatnot, but apologizes to Bobby Lashley, and then then sweetens the deal by offering Bobby Lashley his car. MJF had just arrived before the segment in a car, you know, one of these high-powered luxury. What is it? It's not a muscle car, right? It's a sports car. It's not a muscle car. But look, it just goes to show how much I know about cars. So he offers the car to Bobby Lashley. And he says, look, and Lashley's like, well, let's go. You know, where are the keys? Well, they're backstage. Let's go. And so they go backstage. Lashley gets into the car and, you know, sort of starts revving up the motor, gives MJF a thumbs down, and drives off with the car. So Grand Theft Auto is now also part of the multiple crimes that have occurred in the history of All Elite Wrestling. And MJF's freaking out, but MVP tells him, look, don't forget, business is about giving the people what they want. So eventually, you know, we're probably going to soften up old Bobby Lashley. Anyway, this obviously will go on, will continue. Renee Paquette is backstage with Hangman Adam Page. Hangman said that he would kick Kyle Fletcher's ass the minute he sees him because of what happened last week. MJF then arrives into the frame. Again, these guys are not quite able to let it go. They're going to continue to have an extensive rivalry, which I'm okay with that. They trade some barbs barbs about their past matches and going through back doors. MJF then threatened to send Seabiscuit back to the glue factory and saying that Page, Seabiscuit being Page, of course, and Page would choke during the Owen Hart Foundation Tournament Finals. Hangman said that I got something you can choke on, which, undoubtedly made a lot of people happy at home. Just a nice little segment to establish some stuff, which would also end up coming into play. Not necessarily the MJF stuff, but the Kyle Fletcher stuff. Konosuke Takeshita and Josh Alexander defeated Brody King and Will Ospreay in a tag team match. I enjoyed this match too. I thought it was another good match. Nothing but solid wrestling on this show. Nothing top to bottom solid wrestling on this show. Very good TV matches. We got a great one on top of that. This was right in that vibe here where just a solid physical match between a bunch of guys who are able to throw hands and are able to really get physical. I really liked it. It was rugged. It was good. It wasn't anything that revolutionized the genre, but it was really, really good. Continues to establish, and Josh Alexander getting the win here with the C4 spike continues to establish, that, okay, well, he's going to be a guy here, right? Continuing to strengthen the Don Callis family, make them come across as threats. And I think it's very crucial. And we'll talk about that in a second. Well, I mean, we'll talk about it now. It's very crucial that the Don Callis family comes across as a threat because, Takeshita came, not Takeshita, he was already there. Kyle Fletcher came out, right? And, after the heels beat up Brody King and Will Ospreay some more, Fletcher comes out, which drags out Adam Page, who had just told us, as soon as I see Kyle Fletcher, I'm beating his ass. So he comes out, but he was blindsided by Trent Beretta and Rocky Romero, who are back to be calling themselves Roppongi Vice, and who are also part of the Don Callis family. So they beat up on the Hangman. Everyone gets in the ring, and you have a family portrait of the Don Callis family, which has never been as big because Lance Archer was there as well. The only guy that was missing was Brian Cage. He's out with an injury, but you see the whole of the Don Callis family there, and you're like, okay, this is a good group. This is a good unit. I like it. You see all the power dynamics. You see who's who within the group. I think it's tremendous. I think it's a really good. I thought it was a really good way to solidify how significant the group the Don Callis family can be in AEW. I thought it was very effective. I have very little notes. I liked the match. I gave the match 3.5 stars. I thought it was very good. Very super solid. What more is there to say? It's good stuff. And that leads us to the main event where Kris Statlander defeated... where Jamie Hayter defeated Kris Statlander in the Owen Hart Foundation Tournament semifinals. Really good, strong. Again, another really, really good, strong, powerful match where with two similar style wrestlers, and they're swinging at each other, dropping each other with some bombs, German suplexes. Statlander does an electric chair facebuster and a 450 splash. Hayter's pulling out the submission game she's got a dragon sleeper hooked in there, full on skull end for those of you who kind of at home. And Jamie Hayter wins with the Haterade, which was fantastic. It was a really, really solid, good, top-notch main event. Another 3.5 star match for me. I really liked it. And then after the match, Mercedes Moné comes out to stare down her her opponent, who she will be facing at Double or Nothing, and Jamie Hayter, and that wraps up the show. A super solid edition of Dynamite that had lots of stuff going on, and again, following this pattern of putting people on TV the fans want to see. And in spots that the fans want to see them in. You know, you got your little interview segment, your little sports entertainment moment with MJF and the Hurt Business, and it was fine. You know, it's a fun little segment, and it didn't overdo it, and we just moved on, and it was okay. Continues that moving forward, that story, but it wasn't one of these 20-minute drawn-out segments that we can sometimes get with MJF. It was very well paced, and I think, for circling back to that, I think this is one of the things that helps MJF when he's in promo segments where he's not droning on for 15 minutes, where he's in a much more concise time frame. I think he's much better. I think he loses himself less and gets right to the point. He's focused. He's into it. He knows what he has. He's zeroed in on what he has to say. And that makes him so much better. That makes him so much better than just, you know, whatever it is he does when he suddenly has to talk for 20 minutes, which isn't necessarily always a winning formula. No, this show ruled. Great wrestling, good to great wrestling, eventful. I mean, dynamic and a good energy, you know, no one phoning it in, you know, in the matches. You know, we talked a little bit about Kenny. That's the only person I really wonder about. But, like, no one is mailing anything in. Everyone seems into it. It's good. It was good. It was a really good show. As good as last week? No. But a great offering from AEW nonetheless. Just like this review was a great offering from me, Mr. Warren Hayes. Thank you very much for being here. If you liked it, well, leave a like on the video or a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or a 5-star rating on Spotify. And I will be back, if you're listening to this on the Thursday, later today for a live stream over on YouTube. A couple of more live streams next week. And we'll be back for the Mr. Warren Hayes show as well. My list of the best matches of March 2025 is going to be released tomorrow, Friday. So that's going to be released on YouTube only. So you want to subscribe to that if you don't want to miss it. So there you go. That about wraps it up. Thank you everyone for watching, for listening, and go watch some Randy Orton and get back to me. I'll see you next time.